Welcome back, horror fans, to the Weird Kid Horror Show. I am your host, the Weird Kid. Thank you for being here today. Today, I want to talk to you about Shrunken Head. But first, I've got an unboxing to do. This package here came to me from one of my partners in crime, the Trio of Terror, Vic Springston. Vic Springston is a gentleman that is part of the Trio of Terror, which is myself, Keith from Cobwebs and Candlesticks, and Vic Springston from Graveyard Creepers. Together we make the Trio of Terror. And super generous, super talented gentleman, but super generous. A while ago, he had invested in some shrunken heads that were from deadrabbit.com. And he had bought nearly everything they had, possibly everything they had in stock. And so he had a bunch of duplicates, and without even prompting, he's so generous, he threw a bunch in the box and mailed them to the Weird Kid here in Florida. And I want to open these up and take a look at them with you guys. So here we go. So let me put this up to the side. They come in sets of 3. And I believe it's $60, not including shipping, for a set of 3. And look at these things. They're absolutely beautiful. They're gorgeous. Unbelievable. I love this one here. It's got the bone through the nose. And we got this little guy here. Very, very well made. You know, I was saying to the guys at one point in time that one thing I've always disliked about when a company's selling a mask and they put an advertisement out for it in a magazine or on a website or something, you're looking at this thing and it looks gorgeous, you know, but then when you get it, it doesn't match what the photo is, and that's because of filters and Photoshop, you know, changing and messing with the brightness and contrast and whatnot. But these things here, they look like they do on their website. Now check that guy out right there. They are so well made. They're made of latex, foam-filled latex. Very well sculpted and beautiful. I love them. They're fantastic. Check that out. That's so awesome, isn't it? So, huge thank you, Vic. Thank you so much for sending them to me. They're absolutely gorgeous. He said, oh yeah, you should throw them on a steak or something, you know, have a whole collection of heads on steaks. I just don't have the heart. I love these things. They're beautiful. I really don't want to change anything about them. I think that they're a part of my permanent collection now. But speaking of shrunken heads, what is the history of shrunken heads? Well, I did a little bit of research, and it turns out that they originated in the Amazonian rainforest, in portions of Ecuador and Peru. Specifically, a tribe called, and I have to tell, and please forgive me if I don't say it correctly, the Shuar tribe. Okay, and it was believed that when they killed their enemy, they would cut the head off, and then they would cut behind the ears and up the back of the neck, and then peel the skin off of the skull like an orange. I know, gross, right? And then it was at that point in time they would sew the lips shut, sew the eyes shut, and then they would fill the inside of the cavity with hot, like wood and stuff like that to help it keep its shape, and then they would boil it for an extensive period of time in water, which I guess would help start the shrinking process. And then at the end, I guess they put like hot stones and hot sand inside of it to further help the shrinking and mummification process, I guess, if you will. So the thing would shrink down, and then they would decorate it and adorn it, and I guess it was tied to like religious purposes, but it was also believed that one of the last things that they did to it is they coated it with ash, and it was believed that the ash would keep the spirit of their enemy from seeping out, and that they've captured their enemy, they've shrunken their head, and now they've got this thing which is believed that their enemy, they have to serve them now, that they're like a slave to them. Very interesting. But what was even more interesting is that Westerners started to discover these things back in the, must be, I don't know, late 1700s, 1800s. And it became a curiosity, a novelty item. And Westerners would go and they would trade one gun for one head. Okay, so this brought the demand up. So next thing you know, there's a death rate. Death rate's climbing to get heads, because now they've got a marketable commodity. Westerners want shrunken heads. These tribesmen want guns. So they needed to up the ante, and they didn't always stick to killing people. It's believed that also too that they were like doing grave robbing and stuff like that. But then there was also foes, or gaffs, if you will, where they were taking, they were using animal skins like llama or yak skin or whatever, and then they would make a mock-up of a shrunken head and then pass it off as the real thing. I read that even in some of the most prestigious museums across the world, 80% of the shrunken heads in the collections are actually fake. So I think the only way really for them to verify whether a head is actually real or not, obviously, of course, is through DNA testing. But in the 1930s, it was believed that you could purchase a shrunken head, a real shrunken head, for around $25. Imagine that your head was only worth $25. But at that point in time, it started to get out of hand, so the Ecuadorian and Peruvian government got together and banned the practice. So you can no longer buy a legitimate shrunken head unless it's through a private collection, but even then it might be questionable. But if you go on eBay, there are some pretty cool looking gaffs. When Vic Springsteen here was kind enough to send me his extra heads, and I got this stuff here and opened it up, you know what? I thought, it's about time. It really inspired me. So it got me to move my butt to create. This is my shrunken head. And I just literally finished them yesterday. And I wanted to go ahead and get this thing up and running for you, get this tutorial out for you guys in case you wanted to make one yourself. And I'll tell you what, it is a fun project, and you don't have to be the most skillful person in the world to do this. Any skill level can make a shrunken head. And I'm going to tell you how I made this one. So there's a lot of processes. If you go back to, I think it was either the late 60s, early 70s, there was a kit you could buy with Vincent Price's face on it, shrunken heads. I still to this day want that set because it's just so cool, and of course it's got Vincent Price on the cover. But in that case, you were to take apples. You can take an apple, skin it, take all the skin off of it, carve the face into the apple, and then soak it, I think, in a water and lemon juice mixture to help preserve it, and then you basically dehydrate it, cook it on very low in the oven until it shrivels up and it's dry. You take it out, let it cool, and then decorate it. Voila, there's your shrunken head. And they had a kit, shrunken head kit. Then there's also like these guys here where you're sculpting out of clay your shrunken head. Then you're making a mold, and then once your mold's done, you coat the inside with liquid latex. Once that's cured, then you can foam fill the whole thing, and then you're done. Then there's also what I did, and that is I used polymer clay, Sculpting, to create my Shrunken Head. And so what I did was I took and balled up a piece of aluminum foil until I got the desired shape of the head that I wanted, and then I pancaked and rolled out some sheets of Sculpting, and I coated the entire aluminum foil with the Sculpting to give it a skin. And then with my ball stylus and various sculpting tools, I dug out the eye sockets and worked them, kneaded them into position. And then I took some balls of clay and then put them where the eyes were, and I tapered them off and smoothed them off to create some eyelids. And then with my sculpting tool, I was able to cut the deepest spot in the middle of the eyes is where the two eyelids meet, and then I added some texture up and below to give some wrinkles on the eyelids. Then I took, I made a nose, threw on some Sculpey there, and then just worked it, and then put the nostrils in. Once I put the nostrils in, see, for me, noses are hard. I have a hard time doing noses, and I have a hard time doing ears. But I noticed that when I put on the piece of clay that I want to work with as a nose, and I start to knead it and work it into place, it really doesn't look like much until I put the ball stylus and create the nostrils. I'm able to, inside the nostril, flare out the nostrils to give it more of a natural look and a characteristic. So once I got the nose all done, I take what I like to call almost like an upside down triangle, a piece of Sculpey that's like an upside down triangle. The thin part I start at the corner of the nose, and then I taper it off to give the beginning of some cheekbones. And then once I work that in, I can undercut from underneath the nose and mouth, underneath the cheeks, down by the mouth, which gives us the under ridge of the cheekbones. Okay? All the while I can add some to the forehead and the eyebrows. Just keep, once you've got your form, you can do several bakes, and I did do several bakes. The first thing I did actually was, once I put the clay on the aluminum foil, and I did the eyes, and then I did the nose, and it was at that point I did my first bake, because you don't really want to sculpt something from start to finish without baking it in between, because it's going to start getting extremely hard to work on one area without worrying about crushing or smashing, squishing, whatever another area that you've already worked on and could even be done with. Okay, so it's no harm in pre-baking. Okay, so aluminum foil, cover it with Sculpey. You would have to at least make the indentations for the eyes, and if you wanted to, at that point in time, you could bake it, let it cool, add your eyelids, nose, bake it, add your cheekbones, bake it. There's no wrong way. You can do this in steps, okay? But once I had the eyes, nose, and the cheekbones in place, everything looked the way I wanted to, then I went ahead and rolled some snakes of clay for the lips. I started the upper lip first and got that to where I wanted it. Put some little lines in it for texturing, and then I added the bottom lip. Okay, and then I added a little chin, a little dimple like in the bottom, and then I think I baked it again, and then I went ahead and added the ears. ears is not easy. For me anyways. It might be easier for you. But in this case, in a case of a shrunken head, even though you can clearly see that it's the head of a human, you got human facial features, there is still distortion. The ears could be bent or shriveled or whatever the case may be. So that's going to give you some forgiveness as far as if your ear doesn't look picture perfect. It's okay. It's a shrunken head. It's not a 1/1 scale head anymore. It's shrunk down, and there's all kinds of things that happen during the process. So it's okay. You gotta give yourself permission to just go with it. Okay. So once I got the whole face, the ears attached, everything is done. Before I even touched it, before I even started painting, I needed to make a base. All right. So I cut out a plinth, or you could go to Hobby Lobby, Joann's Fabrics, even Walmart in the craft section. You can buy already cut plinths, bases. Okay. You can get as decorative as you want. And then a dowel, a wooden dowel, and you just find the center of the circle and drill a hole just a hair smaller than the dowel, so that it'll slide right in nice and snug. Put some glue, and then drill a hole in the bottom of your head, and then you can take some glue, epoxy resin, or in my case I used a bit of E600 and super glue to secure the head onto the dowel. Okay, so now the head is on the dowel, and it also gives me, my hands are free now to work on this thing. I've got a stand to hold it. Okay, so then once I got it mounted on the thing, the next thing that I did that you're going to want to do before you even paint it is you're going to decide where you want the twine, where you want his lips sewn. Do you want them sewn in one hole and down and out the other? Do you want to crisscross the stitching? You got to make these decisions beforehand. You want earrings? Do you want to get crazy with the stitching on the eyes? These are decisions that you're going to have to make. But there is no really wrong way. There are so many different combinations you can do, and that's the beautiful thing about making your own shrunken head, is that the possibilities are endless. There's so many different combinations. So, but whatever you decide, you're going to want to go ahead and drill your holes before you even put paint on this thing. Okay? So I drilled out, I did 4 holes in the eyelids. I did 4 holes on top of the lip, 4 holes on the bottom of the lip. Now I didn't drill completely through. I cheated. Okay? So I just drilled a hole deep enough to where I could slide the twine into the hole and super glue it into place. Okay, so after all the holes were drilled, then I went ahead and painted the whole head flat black, and then I took a dark gray and dry brushed it, and then once that was dry, I took a lighter gray and did another fine dry brush over the top of that. Now you look at different pictures, there's different styles. There's some that are like gray, charcoal gray. Some of the real ones, they almost look like they're like a burnt umber, like beef jerky. They look like beef jerky, which I guess basically that's what it is. It's human beef jerky. It's dehydrated human flesh, and it looks the same as, so you can do a burnt umber with a dry brush of rouge. The color scheme's up to you, and it doesn't even have to be a traditional looking shrunken head. You can do a clown shrunken head if you want. You can do whatever you want. That's the beauty part. Millions, thousands of combinations. There's no wrong way. Okay. But anyway, so after I got it painted, then I found out here in our local area that one of the Goodwills had opened up, and thank God. That's all I can say is thank God, because I was going through Goodwill withdrawals. That's where I go to find a lot of my supplies, treasures. I love going to Goodwill. Well, I went to this Goodwill and I thought, okay, I don't care if I don't find anything as long as I could find a black wig. Please let me find a black wig so that I could work on this thing. All right. I've not seen them all the time. I've seen a lot of brown, seen a lot of dirty blonde, not black. And I didn't know how I'd feel about having a blonde shrunken head. That's not to say that they're not out there, but I just wanted traditional black hair. So I went to Goodwill, looked around, didn't see nothing, no way. I saw a couple of wigs, they were the wrong colored hair, and I'm like, oh, great, But then something caught my eye, and it was this package here. And it's Yaki Perm, 100% Kenna Callan hand braid, okay? And I was like, I hit the jackpot, because on one side was the piece that I used for this, and then on the other side I got a whole new, I could probably do 4 more heads with this alone, just what this is. And it was super cheap. Yaki perm braid. So I don't know if this is like a synthetic or if it's actually yak hair. I mean, it feels like real hair. So maybe it is yak hair. I don't know, but all the better. I don't care. This was cheap, and I not only got enough for him, but enough for a bunch of other projects. So the first piece I pulled out, it was like they had taken the long strand and then they had tied it in a knot in the middle. Okay, so I was looking at this thing. I was like, okay, I gotta untie this knot before I start working on it. But you know what? I just, for the hell of it, I just dry fitted it on top where the knot is, and I was like, man, that looks good. It looks like a hairstyle. Don't you think? So, and it also helped me because I didn't have to like glue in layers. So what I'm going to probably do is, when I do the next one, the ones on this side are just big long strands. It's elastic together here. So I don't know why this one was tied in a knot on that side, but this one wasn't, and that's what's left over from this side here. But I think I'm going to go ahead and try to tie it in a knot again, because what I was able to do was I was able to glue the front part here down, okay, which in actuality leaves it bald from here down, but that's okay, because then what I did was I just took and moved a bunch of the strands over and started gluing it from the top down to fill in. So this is how I filled in the whole thing. Then on the sides, the same thing. I worked it so that I was able to glue a bunch of it in places that I want. I wanted the ears exposed with some hair going down the front, and I was able to accomplish that by gluing it into place. And then I wanted braids. Okay, I didn't know what, I knew I had a vision in my head, but I didn't know quite how it was going to translate. I didn't know if I was going to have some feathers hanging off of it or what, but I knew I wanted some braids. So I went ahead, I had some of this extra like beads, and I went ahead and slid some up top here on the sides, and then I braided it down, and then with some of the twine that I used to sew the eyes and mouth shut, I went ahead and wrapped around there and then tied it, but then tacked it with glue so that it doesn't come untied. And then did the same thing on both sides. And then after that was done, I was able to work on the face. And I had some of these wooden beads off an old necklace that broke. You can go to Hobby Lobby or Joann's Fabrics. They've got, especially Hobby Lobby, they've got a very wide selection of beads. I bet you can find something. This is going to be to taste, okay? It's going to be within your taste. This is what I ended up with. You might decide to go another direction and add different kind of beads, or it might not have beads at all. That's an option too. But now that it's painted, the hair's on. I've already had my holes drilled because that's the first thing I did once the sculpt was done. Before I painted it was to drill the hole. So then I took this twine and I just put dabs of super glue in the holes, stuck it in there, let it cure, and then cut it extra long to make sure I had enough to do what I wanted to do. And I did that on each upper and lower hole in the lips. And then I tied the two ends together very gently. You don't want to like jerk on it, you know, it's going to pull out. You're going to want to go gentle and just work it, and then once you're done, just tack it with a little drop of super glue so it doesn't come unravel, untied. And I went ahead and added these like little bamboo beads, added the twine to the eyes, and then of course, as I pointed out already, the ears have some little dangly earrings as well. So, and then of course, the base was painted. I did that before when I was painting the face, the head. I went ahead and painted the dowel on the base flat black. I didn't have no sandpaper, or at least I wasn't willing to go in the shed and dig for it. So I had kind of a rough edge when I cut out this plinth. So I went ahead and took craft foam and then glued it all around the perimeter and then finished it off with upholstery tacks. So there you have it. There is my version of the Shrunken Head. Okay. I enjoyed making this, and I think I'm going to have to make more of them. And I hope that you guys go ahead and that you find this tutorial useful. And I would love to see what you come up with. So you're more than happy to head over to Facebook, hit me up on the Trio of Terror page, go ahead and post the pictures of what you've done, or you can hit me up on the Weird Kid Horror Show page and share, show us what you've got, show us what you did, you know. And the great thing about the Trio of Terror Facebook group is that it's judgment free. We welcome everybody of all skill levels. I'm not a professional anything. I don't claim to be a professional. I'm just a guy that absolutely loves this stuff and loves sharing what I've learned along the way. I'm still learning, you know. So yeah, go check us out. Please, if you haven't already done so, like and subscribe and hit the bell. It's going to notify you when I upload another video, and there's so much more coming. I'm dragging my feet on the Plague Doctor tutorial. The reason is because I'm waiting for the last things, the bells and whistles, to finish him off, because I want him finished before I do the tutorial, okay? So that's coming. I still got the Creepy Doll tutorial that I'm going to be carrying on with. There's so much to come. Interviews, you name it. So please, I hope you join me for the journey. I appreciate you. And until next time, peace.